Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and you're joining us today for another episode of Crime Writers of Canada as we are interviewing members of Crime Writers of Canada that have been nominated for an awards of excellence. So joining me today is Vicki Grant. Hi, Vicki. How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are
Uh,
you?
I'm good too. Thank you. The reason we are chatting today is because Vicki has been nominated for an awards of excellence for her book Death by Whoopee Cushion by Tundra Books, which has been nominated for Best Juvenile YA Crime Book, sponsored by Superior Shores Press. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
A little bit about you. Vicki Grant is a Canadian writer based in Halifax, Nova Scotia. She began her professional life in advertising and television, creating short ads and scripts before transitioning to full-length novels. Her first novel, The Puppet Wrangler, was published in 2004, making the start of her career in young adult and middle grade literature. In 2006, her book Quid Pro Quo won the Award of Excellence, the then called Arthur Ellis Award, for the category of Best Juvenile YA Crime Book. She's written 21 books, including titles for reluctant readers and award-winning novels. So congratulations again. This is sort of a personal question because I have two teenage sons, and you said you write books for reluctant readers. How do you do that, and how can I get them to read it?
Well, I don't write all my books for reluctant readers, but there's certainly a number of them that I have written that are specifically aimed at that group. So those are generally called high-low novels, so high interest, low vocabulary. And there are a number of publishers in Canada and I'm sure around the world who do them, and it's have a booming business doing them because so many kids um, do fall into that category of reluctant reader, either because they have reading issues, maybe English isn't their first language, or maybe like my own son at that age, he just had better things to do. So the idea is to write something at their interest level, but at a lower reading level. And it's funny because they call it low vocabulary. I have to say, I don't curb my vocabulary for kids because I don't think that's often the issue, but I do tend to write shorter sentences, shorter chapters, shorter paragraphs. I keep it snappy. I think my experience as a advertising copywriter and a television writer was a big help. They used to say, I don't know if they do anymore, but that when you write an ad for the general public, you're writing at an age 12 reading level, right? So even if you're selling a fancy car or beer or whatever, you have to aim it at that sort of reading level. So I would say the biggest change is structure. You don't mess around with different timelines. You sort of get rid of the obstacles. So that might cause confusion. I end things with a lot of cliffhangers. You use all the tricks of the trade, the hooks to keep them interested. And I think the really important thing is not to dumb it down. Just because a kid is a reluctant reader doesn't mean there's anything the matter with their brain. And I found that out with my own son, where I kept on giving him sort of, you know, dumber and dumber books. And then he read Night by Eli Wiesel. So, the Holocaust book, it was short. He read it as a young teen and he was hooked. And Of Mice and Men, he read. So, not that my books are in any way in that category of genius, but I'm just saying that I think the mistake was before you had a kid in grade 8 who didn't read well and you gave him go, dog, go, right? And why would he be interested?
Yeah. I can see it, and I don't know what it says about my brain because I'm about 5 chapters into Death and a Whoopee Cushion, and I'm enjoying it. So
Oh, good,
maybe
good.
you're writing to my level too.
You're my target audience.
Well, let's start with the title, Death by a Whoopee Cushion. Crime writers often try to come up, regardless of who we're writing to, genius ways or original ways to kill someone. So
Right, right.
you're using a whoopee cushion. How did you come up with that?
Um, well, I probably started. sort of backwards from there. So I originally had an idea ages ago for a television show that was set in a prank shop, joke shop. When you're writing for kids, well, I am. When I am, I'm always looking for a different setting for the books. I mean, how many times can you write a book set in a camp or a mall or a school, right? And I thought, prank shop. Kids love pranks. Then I'm going to flip it around instead of it's not the kids loving the pranks or the main characters loving the pranks, it's the older people. And then I wanted to do a mystery um, for a couple of reasons. I like mysteries myself. They're always looking for more mysteries for kids. And it's a both a boy girl type thing. You know, boys and girls will both read it. And I think I might even have come up with the title first, like Who Doesn't Love a Whoopee Cushion? I found out that whoopee cushion isn't branded, isn't trademarked, so you can use whoopee cushion. And I wanted something, even though it's obviously meant to be funny, there's serious stuff in the book. I mean, there actually is a death by whoopee cushion. I always want my characters to deal with something real and challenging and maybe scary or maybe sad so that emotionally they have a an interesting arc. So, and I have to say, I think it's one of my best titles ever. I mean, everyone laughs when they hear it. So, and you kind of know what it's about too, in a sense. Death, but you know it's going to be a murder mystery, and whoopee cushion, we get prank out there. So,
Yeah, it's clever. I knew what I was getting. Uh, so your main character, Manya Brown, is embarrassed of her parents, as you were saying, because they own Pranks a Million,
yeah.
a um, a joke shop, a prank shop. It doesn't sound like such a horrible thing, but it does affect her school life. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, Manya and her best friend Isaac are both science nerds, and you know they're serious kids. They actually are really interested in this stuff. They they don't describe themselves as outsiders because they're quite happy with their own little nerd herd, as they call it. But they are sort of on the you know, they're not your average grade 6 kid. And of course, Manya is mortified by her parents who walk around with, you know, plastic arrows through their heads and flashing noses and making rude noises and all that. Yeah, so Manya's parents love all the bathroom humor. They love all the prank stuff. And so, and Manya science nerd that she is, tries to avoid it as much as possible. But she's grown up and with embarrassing things happening, like the family not getting the laundry done on time, so she gets dressed up in Halloween costumes like Junior Sexy Witch or Wednesday Addams, you know, and it turns out to be picture day. She accidentally picks up the wrong pen on her way to school for a spelling test, and it's a pen that when you push down on it, it makes a farting sound. And of course, all the other kids in the class think this is hilarious, and Manu's like, oh, you know. And I mean, you're often doing that type of setup when you're writing about kids at that age. You know, 12 is kind of the perfect age where you start going from idolizing your parents to thinking, oh my God, what are they doing now? You know, they're so embarrassing. Dad with his socks and sandals, and, you know, mom with, you know, whatever moms do. I should know. But on one hand, I hope it's a familiar situation for kids that age, but put in a different setting. So, and perhaps a more ridiculous setting. The other thing, and they have a um, they have a parrot, a pet parrot called Toots, who makes a farting sound. And then when people turn around, he goes, Gary did it. Gary did it. You know, it wasn't me, it was Gary, you know. So everything's kind of like that, and absolutely the opposite of what is of interest to Manya.
I don't want to say too much about your plot, but we know there's going to be a death. We've revealed that much. And it's going to be Manya and Isaac who are going to solve it. Um, I know we're in the world of fiction, but
Yeah.
where do a couple of 12-year-olds even start when it comes to trying to solve a mystery?
One of the things you have to do when you're writing for this age group is you have to get rid of the adults somehow, right? I mean, because you want them to be in a situation where the kids have to solve the mystery. So, at some level, whether I'm every murder mystery I've written for this age, I've had to come up with some inventive way to get rid of the parents. And in this case, um, they get arrested. But you also have to come up with a reason for the kids to want to solve the mystery or have to solve the mystery. So once again, they're in a position where they feel like they have to figure out what's going on because it looks like all the evidence is against the parents. Everybody saw this happening. They were the ones with the whoopee cushion, um, so the kids have to start by looking for clues around them. And so they start in the prank shop. And one of, I would say the actual original idea of this book, before I had a plot, before I had characters, before I had anything, was the idea that all the pranks you find in the store are based on some type of science, right? Whether it's the bad smell or the invisible ink or sticky, the powder that turns your fingers, the white powder that turns your fingers black, there's always some science behind it. So what I wanted to do in the book was have the kids use the science in the pranks to solve the mystery, to get the parents off, and to ultimately get themselves out. So I was playing off those two things.
In your book, you have to balance, well, you choose to balance humor, mystery, and as you were saying, also the science of everything. That's a tightrope to walk between three different things. How, now you've written 21 books, but how do you feel like keeping the pace and balancing those three things at the same time?
Well, this is interesting because I have just written my first adult mystery, and this has come up there too, because again, it's sort of a serious thing, but there's a lot of humor in it. And I think for me, the way I talk about it there is that I always want to write characters who, if you met them in real life, had a sense of humor. So I don't want to write farce. I don't want to write like I'm the author looking down on these characters and we're laughing at the characters. I want, people who have a sense of humor. So even though Manya and Isaac are serious science people, they have a sense of humor. And I think uh, if you're a person who has a sense of humor, it doesn't immunize you from pain or tragedy or sorrow or any of life's bad things. But in all likelihood, even when those things happen, you're going to be funny with them. It might be laughter through your tears, it might be black humor, but you're going to have a bit of that already. So in a way, I think the nature of the characters balances that out. That said, joke a minute Grant here, I have to curb my tendencies sometime because there is a danger of the humor while making you laugh distracts you from the plot or distracts you from the emotional weight of something. So occasionally I do have to cut some stuff out. And then the science was probably limited by my own very limited understanding of science. I'm not a science person. So, I didn't want, even though I say this isn't a book necessarily for reluctant readers, I don't want to make it hard for people, for kids that age to read. Like I'm not aiming it at the kid who would be reading something many um, layers above that. I wanted to keep the science interesting, but pretty basic, so that you were never struggling to kind of keep up with what they did. And like I said, since I don't know much science, that was easy enough for me to do.
You kind of mentioned and teased my next question for you because I was going to ask if you ever thought about writing for adults. I did my homework, saw that you did, and then actually realized that I have you booked for the summer again to talk about your other book. So these are the fireworks. We are going to talk a little bit more about it in another episode coming soon, but give us quick the elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch is it's the story of a what seems like a very happy long marriage. The husband dies in an unexpectedly, and the 60 something white widow shows up at the funeral with bright red lipsticks, prompting her grown daughters to start to look into their assumptions about the nature of their parents' marriage, start to question whether the mother had something to do with it, especially when they get wind of a younger man on the scene. And so that said, it's more serious than that. There is an actual there's a tragedy, a long ago tragedy at the root of it, and I would also say, without giving too much away, a um, an actual business practice that has harmed many people, and that's going to be the root. So it's told through several voices: Petra, the mother; Nina, her 30-something daughter; and then two other men. And gradually, all the voices come together at the end, and you'll find out how they're all related. And I hope, I mean, it's funny to it again is funny people in a very difficult situation dealing with something real. So,
I am looking forward to diving deeper into that book, but we're going to have to wait.
yeah,
You are actually my last interview, and I tell everyone I don't know who won. I'm wishing you the best of luck, and congratulations again.
thank you very much. I'm very excited. I was thrilled.